Now we have to cross over to Parliament, where the cash for seat probe is ongoing.
So, can you verify that item number 6 on this table, that payment was made to Millennium Excellence Foundation on 24th of November 2017, and the check number is 000112 for 484,265 Ghana cedis, 31%. Can you confirm that you received that check from the ministry?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I can confirm that the payments on this document to the Millennium Excellence Foundation are accurate.
Sure, thank you. All of them? I take them one by one. The first one is item 6.
Item number 6?
Yeah.
Item number 7, item number 11, item number 12, and item number 14.
All those were checks received by the Millennium Excellence Foundation from the Ministry of Trade and Industry, right?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
But you cannot speak for the other items where payment was made or were made to the Chief Director of the Ministry of Trade and Industry. You cannot speak to those ones.
Mr. Chairman, no, I cannot speak on that one.
After the event, you receive a check of 1.6 million. That's 1,604,700 Ghana cedis from the Ministry of Trade and Industry.
Item number 14.
That's item number 14. Okay? Now, after you receive this check on the 13th of December 2017, are you still expecting more checks from the ministry after this one?
Mr. Chairman, no.
So, have you calculated to see if all that you have you calculated to see if you have received a total of 90% of the entire revenue that you mobilize as your share of the foundation? Have you calculated it?
Mr. Chairman, I believe we have received 90% of all the funds raised, in addition to the ex gratia of the 2 payments that we received after the event. I believe so.
I want a definite answer. Have you calculated and confirmed that you have received 90% of the total revenue raised?
Mr. Chairman, yes.
Can you share with this committee what was the total revenue raised before you received the 90%?
Please ask the question again, Mr. Chairman.
My question is, can you share with us how much your fundraising raised in total? That is the sponsorship, those people who sponsored before the event and then the ex gratia all put together, how much is the total?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have the accounts with me here today, but I can make them available by tomorrow.
In total, how much did you receive from the ministry? You told us earlier on, but I wanted to mention again.
Mr. Chairman, as I said, I would get those accounts to you tomorrow. I don't have those figures with me today.
You told us earlier on today here, and I wrote it down, the amount that you claim you have received from the Ministry of Trade and Industry. I just wanted to repeat it.
Okay.
in all fairness to my clients, they did not foresee that the terms of reference were going to be treated in a manner as to draw them into an exposition on the internal accounts of GEBA or of their company limited by guarantee. I'm just making that point because I can see that my client is having clear difficulty, in all fairness to him, in answering and dealing with these questions which were not anticipated to be within the scope and ambit of what the cash for seats accusations are all about.
Thank you. Counsel, my question is not on whether your client has a background in auditing or in accounting. Far from it. I am just asking for explanation of the content of the MOU that he signed. How did he understood that before he signed? Simple. I'm not asking you whether he has a background in accounting or auditing or whatever.
Yes, I'm certainly, Mr. Chairman, going to encourage him to explain to you what he understood. And irrespective of whether his understanding is considered by you as a misunderstanding, it would be what he understood by the clause. I've heard him try to explain to you on 2 previous occasions before I came in what he understood by the clause. And I could tell it was not an interpretation which was shared by the questioner on the committee, which is why you pressed further. But I'll let him, for the sake of moving forward and assisting your committee, I'll let him attempt yet again to tell you what he understood by that clause. And then perhaps we could proceed from there.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Counsel, thank you. Again, I'd like to tell you what I understood from this clause, that we would hire an audited firm to prepare the accounts for the expatriate business awards. This is what I understood, and that's all it is.
Well, it is clear now.
Not come yet.
It is clear now to prepare the account, not to audit the account. There are difference between account preparation and audit of the account.
Yeah, I didn't know that there was a definition, between the two, distinction between the two. You want to say something?
Accountants prepare accounts. Auditors audit the accounts, even though the two can be done by the same person. But the function of account preparation is different from the function of audit. So that is why once you are engaging the services of an audit firm, I want to be sure that that audit firm is preparing the accounts of GEBA or is auditing the account of GEBA.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank you for this education that you've given me today, and will ensure that in the future I'll have clarity before I sign any document. Thank you very much.
Thank you too. Now, if the money raised by MEF is for both the foundation and the Ministry of Trade and Industry, and is lodged into the accounts of the Ministry of Trade and Industry, and that account of Ministry of Trade and Industry is a sub-consolidated account. Sub-consolidated account. Now, we have consolidated fund, which is at the Bank of Ghana, and the consolidated fund is a fund, it's not an account. It constitutes a number of accounts, sometimes even 6,000 accounts, put together become the consolidated fund. So accounts of all departments, ministries, and agencies put together is a consolidated fund. So a ministry's account is part of the consolidated fund, so we call it sub-consolidated account. So the money you have raised as a foundation for this event has been paid into consolidated, sub-consolidated account. Why do you accept or agree as a private entity to engage a private entity to engage the services of an audit firm to prepare the accounts that is a sub-consolidated account?
Mr. Chairman, again, I'd like to submit that all that you said, I don't understand. All that you said, all I knew was that there was going to be an account that was opened, monies were going to go in there, and they will disburse from there. I don't understand all that you said. I'm not an accountant. I don't want to profess to understand the... It's too much for me now. Now you're taking my head somewhere.
Thank you for your fairness. You are very frank that you don't understand the question, and I wouldn't want to take you through that. But just to, again, probably educate you by saying that once revenue or money is received by a government department by issue of a government receipt book, which is called General Counterfoil Receipts, GCR, it becomes government money.
Mr. Chairman, that is a legal assertion which you are making, which I have advised my client to vehemently disagree with. We do not agree that there is known to law an automatic metamorphosis of private funds into public funds simply by virtue of the use of a special type of receipt book. But that is something which is a legal question which cannot be part of questions you pose directly to the people who my client company is giving evidence through. But at some point, we could all have legal opinions of our own, tell the wider public who is right in law and who's wrong in law. But this is not the place for that, with the greatest of respect, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I'm not a lawyer. I'm an accountant. And I'm telling you, the financial administration regulation that I deal with in my work as an accountant, Public Financial Management Act that I work with as the law that governs my work as an accountant. This is what I'm telling you. So you can have your legal interpretation. I am using my accounting interpretation. I will disagree because your legal interpretation could be different from mine. I'm telling your clients that whenever a government department uses the value book issued to that department by controller and accountant, which is the sole organization that takes custody of that book, it is a value book. And once you use it to receipt funds, you account for it. And you can use it to receive money for a private person, but you must account for it. That is why on Friday, I came up with the trust receipts. You receive the money in trust for somebody. So the money is receipted 100%, 10% belongs to government, because that is a share by the MOU for the Ministry of Trade and Industry. 90% belong to the foundation. It is all for government. But once it's receipted into government account, at that moment, before it is disbursed out of the account, it becomes government money because you use government receipt to receive it. That is all. It's not a question I'm putting to him. Okay. It's not a question I'm putting to him, and I don't expect him to respond to that. So we can move forward.
Honorable Aveji,
Mr. Chairman,
I think that this is an issue that has come up in the course of these investigations. When the Minister for Trade and Industry appeared before us, the same issue was put across to him. He disagreed. We have not come to a determination as to whether or not your postulations are correct or incorrect. So you don't draw conclusion as if it is given. We have to meet as a committee, and then we will determine whether position A is correct or position B is correct. For now, it's an issue that is hanging. We are yet to make a final determination when we go into caucus. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. And when we go into caucus,
Mr. Chairman,
we will discuss further.
our chairman wants to say something.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And now that we've said the hornet's nest, we should all try and come to a meeting of minds. Mr. Chairman, I merely wish to say or to confirm what our legal counsel has said, that we are no financial specialists. And from what has been said here, I'm quite sure that it is correct. But please look at the problem from our point of view. We have gone out to raise funds for a particular event. The safety of that money and the fact that its transactions should be transparent made us agree to submit the money to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Trade and Industries, but to be able to retrieve it when we want it. The fine distinction between what receipt book A does and receipt book B is of little material benefit to us. If we give money to somebody to keep, the person should be able to produce the money. And that's all. Perhaps the Ministry of Trade needs the teachings of the member of this committee, since he's an accountant. I think that that's the correct place to take it up. But we just want our money. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The 90%, that's your money, right? Mr. Ashim Morton, do you consider the share of the money you raised to be a fair deal between you and the ministry?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Where your foundation is taking a chunk, a pregnant amount of 90%, leaving a meager 10% to the ministry, you think it's fair?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Whilst you know very well that you were riding at the back of the ministry, the goodwill of the ministry, the strength of the ministry to raise the money. And and you are only paying them 10% because of that goodwill. Is that the value of the goodwill by your assessments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, in answer to the question posed, I would like to say this, that we think that it is a fair amount because this was discussed and agreed to by us at a wider stakeholders meeting. More than that, the integrity of the foundation is at stake here. And if we cannot agree on the one hand and on the other hand disagree, we must be consistent. Now, we also think that it is fair to consign 90% to the Millennium Excellence Foundation because if for some reason or the other we are unable to meet all the bills, the onus of finding the difference will lie with us and not the Ministry of Trade and Industries. In that respect, we were taking risk, and the risk is justified by the amount that is promised. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, let me go back to your benefit package. And if we can take a look at your presentation earlier, where can you locate or show us the exclusive table of 10, a round table of 10, within the presidential cycle with a company reserved placard, special table decor with Moët champagne, Moët champagne, and all these things for the package of $75,000. Can you show us on the table? Because there was one company that paid $75,000. Where is a table of 10 for that company? So if a company paid the $75,000, it will be located within the presidential cycle.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. And then also, there are company that pay for $50,000. Also, exclusive high round table for 10 with company reserve placards and all those benefits. Where is a 50,000 cycle? And then the 40,000 is also located in the 50,000 cycle.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Wow. Then 25,000 cycle.
Do you have cycles for the 25? 25, yeah. 25.
Unfortunately, the other side, some of the 10,000 and 15,000 found themselves within the 25,000 cycle.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. If you look at the 25,000 circle, they had a table for 5, seats for 5.
Okay. And I mean that there were the green table, there's a table there for 10 and then 15,000, but that's supposed to be 25,000.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Like
Is there any good reason for that company?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, 2 companies share that table.
2 companies share that table, okay.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right, thank you. So it shows from the table or the diagram that the higher you pay, the closer you get to the presidential table, right?
Mr. Chairman, it does not.
Mr. Chairman, we've just seen it, that the only company that pays 75 was closer to the gold table. The only 75 closer to the gold table. And then the next closer one is 50,000. So it shows that the higher you pay, the closer you are to the gold table, isn't it?
Oh, Mr. Chairman, yes, sir.
And that gold table is a presidential table that we all know.
They are closer to the president.
Once again.
You have tables, but nobody pays.
Yeah, but nobody pays. Mr. Chairman, please ask the question again.
I think that you have already answered the question.
Yes.
You have already answered the question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
But if you want me to repeat, I can repeat for you. Okay.
No, thank you very much. Yeah.
Well, the 100,000 that column is actually not they are not part of the table, if I'm right. It is there indicated. It is there to indicate.
Nobody paid it, so they didn't find them here.
So, Mr. Morton, is it by coincidence that the company that paid the ex gratia of 100,000 found himself on the gold table? Is it by coincidence? Factory, he paid 100,000. That is the information we have from the ministry's records. Pay 100,000, but that is a day after the event. So, by your definition, it's ex gratia. Is it by coincidence that he found himself on the presidential table, which is a gold table, and then pay the 100,000 a day after?
Mr. Chairman, I happen to be part of the technical committee that scored the award recipients. And so I knew who some of the award recipients were. At the same time, the foundation has had a good relationship with companies that have supported us over the years. So it was our and only our decision to invite certain expatriates, whether they paid or not. And so, as I mentioned to you earlier, the companies that sat on that table, some of them did not sponsor the event at all. Others sponsored. And in good vein, Mr. Said Factory did not pay any money before the event. We did it because of his support to the foundation and knowing from the technical committee that he was one of our recipients. Yeah. Mr. Chairman, may I go back and make a presentation? Yeah.
Another presentation?
A demonstration or a presentation?
Mr. Chairman, it is important to note that all the tables that are closest to the gold table, this table here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. None of these tables, they were all complimentary seats. They did not pay anything to be seated there. And indeed,
all right, Mr. Morton, the meeting, the cash for seat committee there, we still have to bring you updates on what's happening. Breaking news from the Electoral Commission. We indicated earlier that the Iyoko officials, assisted by armed police personnel, have been at the Electoral Commission to evict the Deputy Commissioner of the Commission, Georgina Opoku Amankwa. Latif brought us some updates.